there, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Noelle, and this is Noelle Roberts Studio, a place for all things Pilates and wellness to support your busy, healthy life. For today, we are going to be doing a little rolling for relief. And the zone that we're going to be working on is getting a little bit of extra relief for that low back. Now, for the majority of Americans, we have a lot of low back pain that we deal with. This can be anywhere from like every now and then to a chronic condition. So these few exercises and Pilates practices should really help you, just give you a little bit more relief and release in that low back area. So all you will need for this is a foam roller. You don't need a mat, but if you have one, go ahead and roll it out and I will meet you there. So for the very first release we're gonna do is gonna be for the Piriformis. And the Piriformis is right inside pretty much like the center of your bum, and it goes from your sacrum, which is the lowest portion of your spine, and it attaches into your hip. And this little muscle is responsible for external rotation of your hip, so opening your hip up, but it can get really tight and it just creates a lot of pull in the low back that doesn't necessarily have to be there. So we're gonna work on loosening that one up or just releasing it a little bit. So you're gonna take your foam roller and you're going to have a seat right up on the foam roller. Now, what I like to do, or what I've told my clients before, is try to find the pocket of your glute here. So you're coming onto, think about coming down, like feeling your tailbone and then rolling up a little bit higher than that, and then leaning your weight into that foam roller. So just kind of tilting your hip into that foam roller. It should be a fairly sensitive spot and you should feel it rather quickly. And from here, before we do anything super fancy, all I want is just both feet down, hand for support, and all you're gonna do is just gently rock through that little pocket in your bum. And you should feel something happening there. Now, if there's a particular spot that is very sensitive, just hang with it for a second. So stay there for a minute, kind of breathe into it, and then give it a little rock and see if that doesn't help release it a little bit. So you want to stay there for a few seconds, just kind of rolling gently back and forth through that little pocket to help release and kind of break up that fascia and that tension that occurs throughout that piriformis. Now, if you want to get really fancy or you want to go a little bit deeper, that hip, that side of your hip that you're working, take the same ankle and cross it over the opposite knee. And all you're gonna do is the same thing, but you're gonna feel a little bit more weight and a little bit more pressure into that spot. Just breathing through it. And just taking a couple seconds. Again, pause if you need, kind of listening to your body, listening to that hip, and rolling through it. Now, another thing you can do here is kind of rock side to side a little bit into that spot. Sometimes I like to do circular motion where I'm kind of rocking through that whole section, just making sure that I covered everything. And again, if there's a spot that screams at you or makes itself known, just hang with it for a second. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Really easy. We just flip ourselves over to the opposite hip, finding that little spot or that little pocket in the hip and beginning that roll. Now remember, you're nice and strong here through the supportive arm, so we're not sagging or sinking. We're still using really great Pilates principles here as we move through this foam rolling release. And again, if there's a spot that feels sticky or it's just kind of screaming at you, sit on it for a second, give it a little love, hang with it, and then roll it again. And if you want to intensify it, simply cross one ankle, the same hip that you're working on, cross it over and roll, giving it a little bit more pressure, a little bit more depth of work. Ooh, I feel that. My goodness. And even if you don't have chronic back pain, this is such a good one to do just to release through your glutes. And again, you could do those circles here. You could kind of go side to side on the back of that glute. Whatever is helping you find those spots that need to be released. Good. And from there, I want you just to simply roll up on top of your foam roller. So you're gonna have a seat nice and tall on that foam roller. We're gonna lengthen up through the spine, and I want you to open your legs about the width of a mat or a little bit wider than your shoulders. And make sure you're sitting right up on your tail, so right up nice and tall. And I want you to flex your feet. Now, if your hamstrings are very tight, keep a soft bend in your knee. Totally okay to do that anytime that you need. If you've got a little bit more wiggle room, and because we've elevated the floor, so to speak, to meet us, you might find that you're able to sit in this position a little bit more easily than you would if you were sitting on the ground. Go ahead and reach those arms out in front, and as you exhale, draw your chin to your chest and allow your spine to go into a C-shaped position. So we allow the chin to roll in, and we segmentally roll through the spine, one bone at a time. The goal isn't necessarily how far we can reach, but how much flexion we can get into that spine. And then we rebuild the spine one bone at a time, really drawing the abdominals in. Feel that tailbone, feel it weighted down underneath you. And then we stack the spine up one bone at a time like building blocks. Again, exhaling to go down, rolling through that spine. Inhale here, and then exhale. Think about your tailbone being heavy. Pull the abdominals in and up with your exhalation, as if they're the ones pushing you back up into that seated position. We'll do 2 more. Exhaling out the air, rounding the spine down. Take an inhale, and then exhale. Tailbone's heavy. Feel that pelvic floor lift. Feel the abdominals pulling up. Everything helps lift the body tall. Last one. Exhale, we roll it down. Getting that mobility in the spine is really helpful for low back pain. And exhale, rebuilding. One bone at a time. Finding that posture, finding that height. Well done. Go ahead and bring your feet in. And we're gonna roll out this little section in the front of our hip, part of our hip flexor called our TFL. Okay, so we're gonna actually lay down prone on our foam roller. So I'm gonna actually put my pubic bone or my pelvis onto the foam roller. And this one is a little bit trickier to get to. So your TFL or Tensor Fasciae Latae, which sounds like a Starbucks drink, it's not, is this muscle right in the front of your hip. And it's pretty small, but it goes from about your hip bone down into the upper portion of your femur. And it's one that can get really chronically tight. It's one of those hip flexors. It's a really important muscle, but we want to make sure that we get it released. So what I'm going to have you do is lie all the way down onto your roller here. And you want to be kind of like right up on the pelvis. From there, come onto your forearms and allow your legs to kind of float off of the ground. You can have your toes there for a guide. Now, I'm gonna open up my body towards you guys. So I'm gonna actually be rocking back towards my right leg, and I'm gonna rock right in there. Now, you don't wanna be right up on the side of your leg. You're kind of angling yourself into, if you think about it, like the corner of your thigh. And I'm rocking from my hip bone down into that small little area that I showed you on the thigh. So watching here, and this, it's really tender. So take your time. If there's a spot that's just like, ow, then stay with it for a second. Hold and breathe, okay? And then roll through it. Now watching here, you'll know when you're on it. You will feel it, okay? It feels like you're rolling on bone, but you're not. And watching here that we're not all the way open on this side, right? And that we're not all the way closed to the front. So again, it's kind of that, it's like pockets, like finding these pockets in your body and releasing them. And again, nice and strong support through the upper body here. Breathing through it. And then to switch the other side, we simply roll through the pelvis and head over to the other side, finding that same little pocket here on the other side of the body, and rolling through it, trying to get the weight onto that pocket. Oh yeah, found it. And you'll notice how the leg that I'm working is kind of floating here so that I can really use my opposite leg to manipulate the movement. And I'm using my upper body for a little support. Woo, there it is. So again, kind of that angle of your thigh, right? Like the corner of your thigh, if you thought about it that way, even though it's not really square. Oh my gosh. Okay. And if there's a spot, again, just kind of sit on it and breathe. Nobody really likes foam rolling, but it's so good. And the results that you get are pretty instantaneous, which is awesome. And then go ahead and come back to center. Help yourself up and off of that foam roller. And I want you to go right from here into a little cat stretch, or a little rounding work for the spine. So again, we're kind of releasing and then doing some mobility work. So from here, taking your hands to your roller, draw your chin towards your chest, and think about diving your body towards that roller. And continue walking it out and away from you. Continue rolling, rolling, rolling until your spine goes into extension. So I'm letting my forearm, so above my wrist, press into that roller. Thinking about just slightly looking forward towards the roller and allowing that extension to happen in my upper back. And then exhale, draw your belly in. So it's not just a jerk reaction. We're going to pull the belly up and in with intention, using those core muscles to bring us back into that cat-like position. And then inhale, roll it out and away into that beautiful extension. Again, opening shoulders, opening through the thoracic spine. A lot of low back pain happens because our whole spine is really immobile. So we want to mobilize it. Want to not just address the area that is in pain, because oftentimes there's other areas around it that are causing that pain. Exhale to curl up and go ahead and take a seat. Now the last thing I want to do here for you guys is I'm going to have you take a seat and place your feet over your roller. We're going to pop our hips up onto this foam roller, and we're going to work on a little bit of internal rotation. So from here, you're going to bridge your hips up and place your pelvis right up on top of that foam roller. You can have your hands on the roller or on the sides of the roller just to give it a little bit more stabilization. We want to think about our form, our posture, and our breath. Draw those abdominals in, and then slowly float the feet up to a tabletop position. And from here, all I want you to do is go into what's called internal rotation. So right now, you're probably in a parallel position, with your knees shooting straight out of your hips. An external rotation would be to let the knees fall out, right? That's external rotation. And then internal is just the opposite of that. So we're gonna let the knees come together, the toes apart. And we're just gonna do tiny little leg circles here. I'm gonna allow my knees to drift down and then open, keeping that internal rotation, and exhale to bring it back. So it's a tiny movement, it's not huge, but I'm really trying to focus on internally rotating. So think about knock-kneed position here. Really trying to allow my knees to rotate in. This is a position we don't get into very often in our bodies. I mean, why would you, right? But it is an important function of the hip. And in order to have healthy low back, we need to have really healthy hips. And that's why we want to address this internal rotation of the body. One more like that. And let's go ahead and flip it. So we're going to go outside first and then bring it in. Again, think about that internal, knees pointing toward each other. You might feel your quads fire up in a weird way because this is just not typical movement for us. Let's do two more. Using those abdominals to help support the work so you're not arching up and down in your low back here. You're just nice and steady and stable. Let's do two more again. I always lie with my counting. Exhale. Last one. Bring it around. Pause here and just let your knees fall in towards your chest, letting the tailbone elevate towards the sky. You could take your hands to the roller if it feels like it's going to slide away. Let the shoulders open, let your spine be long. Take a nice deep breath in, and then slowly and very carefully allow that roller to slide out from under you, letting your body come onto your pelvis. Continue rolling it out and away, and just let your ankles rest on your roller here and allow your body to rest fully laid out just for a couple deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth, breathing into the low back, breathing into the glutes that we loosened, the fronts of the hips. And one more deep breath in through the nose. Allow your tummy to rise. Allow things to be relaxed and loose. And exhaling it all out. Kind of shake your shoulders, shake your body a little bit, let all that work kind of settle in. Take your feet off of your roller, turn over to your side, and help yourself up off of your mat. And I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope you feel a difference in just how you stand, how you move throughout the day, and just a little bit more relief for that low spine and for your hips, your glutes, and your whole body, just to feel a little bit more relieved from rolling for just a few minutes. I will see you back on your mat very soon for another one.